Welcome to Unfiltered, a podcast where real conversations meet real healing. I'm your host, Jackie Douglas Jones, a mental health therapist, professional life coach, and feminine life strategist. Each episode, I endeavor to break down barriers to your personal mental healing process by bringing you raw, real, and authentic conversations, expert interviews, and inspiring testimonies. My ultimate aim is to empower you with hope and an indestructible self-belief that will enable you to confidently take your next steps, wholeheartedly knowing that you also deserve peace and happiness. Let's get started. Over the past decade, my husband Anthony and I have guided our family through some really challenging times. This edited 2024 recording shares some of the ways we chose to shift our parenting approach, focusing on each child's individual struggles before looking at our family of 5 as a whole. I really love this honest conversation with my husband, and I hope it brings real value to our listeners. But I just want to start off talking a bit about who you are, where you grew up. I know, we both were born in Port Elizabeth in the Eastern Cape of South Africa. Let's talk a bit about what your childhood was like. Sum it up for us in a nutshell. The kind of kid you were, maybe how your life was. Just give us a little bit of an outline.
Okay. For me, being brought up in the Eastern Cape was a wonderful place to grow up. I really thoroughly enjoyed it. As far as mental health is concerned and the concerns around it, they only started really showing their face, I think, later on in my life. But I think my upbringing, just to answer the question, my upbringing was beautiful. It was a lovely, lovely place to be brought up in the Eastern Cape, in PE, now called Kalberge. And it actually laid a very nice foundation for me for the future.
And if we could, let's try and get a visual of what you were like as a child. If you had to describe yourself as a kid, give us some adjectives to describe it.
I wasn't a mischievous kid. I was a kid that tried to please. I was a kid that tried to keep my mom and dad happy all the time.
Mm-hmm.
And that was more for myself than anyone else. I didn't do it for them, but I, in many ways, idolized my father. I thought he was the most solid person in my life. My mother was wonderful as well. She brought 4 different kids up in the 70s and 80s, which was not easy. So she did a magnificent job. But I think looking at my father, I think I pushed myself to impress him all the time. And looking back and where we are right now, I think maybe that's where the discussion on mental health comes from, because I was actually trying possibly too hard to please him rather than please myself.
So I remember a little story that you told me once. Okay. And you were a very good golfer at school. You excelled in golf. You excelled in tennis. You tell the story of how there was a time when you were playing golf and it was a competition and you didn't actually want your dad to be there, and he still came and hid behind a tree and you knew that he was there. Can I just ask you, what was the driving force behind not wanting him there, or feeling like that his presence would in some way affect the way you played? What was that?
Okay, I was very competitive and I was playing a provincial golf tournament, and my father came all the way from PE to George in the West, what we call it now, Southwestern districts, to come watch me play. And I think the odd thing was I tried, as I said, so hard to please him. I did not want to let him down. Sure. And with him watching, I just felt that extra bit of pressure. So that pressure wasn't created by him. It actually was created by myself for him.
So would you say that was a bit of anxiety that you were feeling in possibly letting him down, and fearing that he wouldn't be proud of you or wouldn't see you the same way if you didn't excel?
I think so. If you're looking back at it now, I would never have said that was anxiety at that stage, because, as you know, growing up, anxiousness wasn't really a common phrase, something that we used. But looking back at it now, I definitely was anxious. I can still remember him as I close my eyes and I look. out onto the fairway, and I can see behind the trees my father popping his head out from behind the trees, trying to see how I would drive the ball. And inevitably, it got to the stage where I regrettably asked him actually not to watch me.
Yeah.
So it is regrettable. I say regrettable because, he passed away 10 years ago. And it's possibly one of the moments where I thought I could have handled that differently if I had known how to handle that anxiety. But as I said, it wasn't an issue. We didn't call it anxiety then.
Yeah.
So for me, I think I lost the plot a little bit looking back. But yes, it was very much pressure on myself that I put myself for him. But I was the one who let him down by saying, you can't watch.
Okay. Okay. Yeah. It's interesting that story is so prevalent in your mind, because I know it's a story that you've told very often. So it's obviously something that has sat in your mind for a long time. And thank you for sharing it with us, because I know that sometimes we look back and we regret things. But you do know that your dad was really proud of you. He really was.
I hope so.
He really was. And we can see that all through the way that your relationship developed in business. Like, that is very evident. When you think about anxiety, so like before kids, before me, like what were your thoughts of anxiety on anxiety? Like, were there any thoughts? Like, was it a thing?
There were no thoughts. I didn't really even know what the word anxiety meant.
Mm-hmm.
I was brought up in a family where one of the siblings in the house really battled with mental health. Now, it wasn't really termed a mental health disorder then, but this sibling of mine was diagnosed as what they called then, which they've changed, it was bipolar disorder. And that was traumatic for me growing up. It was traumatic for all of the kids growing up and my mom and dad. And my mother quite rightly said she treated her kids all the same, but for some reason, one of their kids ended up a lot different to the others.
Yeah.
And
really
I struggled with that because I was a different person, completely different person. And the others in the house were different people. So the question is, should we be treated exactly the same as siblings growing up in a family? There's a question that could be answered by a specialist, not myself. But to answer that question, mental health was definitely something I knew about. Anxiety, not so much. Anxiety was, as you said in your previous podcast, was get up and move on.
Yeah.
You don't have time. Our generation didn't have time to sit back and mope about what had just happened. We weren't given that opportunity.
And dwell on it.
And listening to your first podcast, I think I also looked back and I thought, wow, there were certainly moments which I feel I did not handle well, how I could have handled it better if we were aware of this horrible mental health or anxiety or depression, all of that stuff. I would have been different possibly, but at the same time, I am where I am. So
Yeah. So let's talk about when you first started dating me. Bit of a loon. Cute. I was cute. Let's be honest.
You were exceptionally.
And so were you. But what would go through your mind when in the early stages of our dating, when I would have those periodic anxiety attacks? Because I was still healing at that time. I was still going to therapy. I was still sort of working my way through this whole thing. And you came alongside me. Very much out of the blue. It was actually your mother and my father who set us up on a date.
Correct.
So what would go through your mind at that time?
Basically, at the age of 20, I think I met you at 20. We started dating a year or two later. But when I met you, I just immediately connected. I think you'll realize as well, there's a connection. It wasn't only a physical connection. It was quite a deep spiritual connection I had with you. And I think that your story that you tried to relate to me later on in the relationship, as we started dating a year or two later, I didn't want to get too involved into your past.
Right.
The truth is, I didn't think I could handle it. To be honest with you, I wanted to fall in love with the person you were right then and there, not the person you were years before, where I couldn't change that. And I was possibly a little bit scared to find out who the person was before, and how we could continue a relationship when possibly I tarnished my impressions of who you were, which were wonderful at the stage. So that was my thoughts on that one.
Okay, interesting. I've never actually asked you that before, so that's really interesting. Can I ask you, from a male point of view, bearing in mind the boys don't cry, like the whole, would you say that more men hide their anxiety to fit a societal norm that's kind of been propagated through the generations, not allowed to show weakness, not allowed to show fear? So, like, just from your point of view, do you think there are more males than actually reported who suffer with anxiety but don't quite know what it is?
I think the stats that we get coming out from the internet, from these World Health Organizations, from all of them, are not actually accurate.
Mm-hmm.
I would probably say 90 to 95% of every single male has battled with either anxiety or depression or panic attacks. That includes myself, and I regard myself as one of the fortunate ones who's been able to overcome really stressful times. So to answer that question, yes, men really enjoy covering up what's going on inside. They want to be able to provide for everyone around them. They want to be able to dominate discussion or whatever it might be in the workplace, whatever it is. They want to be known as someone who is strong.
Okay.
And that,
would you say reliable?
Reliable, yes, definitely reliable. But I think the more important thing there is, as we always talk about power, they want to be able to portray this power upon either a spouse or a boss or a child. That need to display some sort of power and
authority,
control over them, basically is where the problems start. Because I think deep down inside, every man would like to have actually lived his life slightly differently.
Speaking generally, of course, and from your point of view.
Very general. It's very general. I think women will probably sit in the same situation where they could have made different decisions.
Yeah, sure.
But to answer the question on men, there's no doubt in my mind that men have been able to, as you've mentioned before, mask. They've been able to mask their true thoughts, their true feelings. To me, it's very sad, because I think you've known me for a good couple of years. I don't like to mask. No. I can't mask, because when I'm feeling down or I'm feeling a little bit, you'll see it immediately, number one. And number two, I'll express it. I will tell my kids, I'm not feeling so great today. Can we try this another day? And I think that's what men struggle with, actually opening up, communicating those close.
So that's how you are now. But I mean, if I look back at our early dating life, there was no way that you would show me that side of you. Like, I think from my point of view, as someone who's been in your life for 26 years, I only really started seeing that vulnerable side of you more frequently. Probably around, I would say, 10 years of marriage.
Okay.
There was a subtle change, and especially when you were diagnosed with multiple sclerosis, that was a big change in your life. And that's probably when I saw your vulnerability come to the fore. Would you say that something like a terminal illness, like multiple sclerosis, which there is no cure for, would you say that has been a catalyst for you in being more honest about what you're feeling and when you're feeling it in terms of anxiety?
I think, anyone who's sitting and battled a terminal illness or a life-changing rather than life-threatening illness will look back and say, that was the moment that things did change for me. And 2014, correct, things did change for me and for us as a family.
Yes.
I definitely saw that I wasn't bulletproof, that I thought I was. My kids, bless them, love them, our kids, they looked up to me, and I at that stage also started feeling a bit as if I was letting them down because they were just starting their teenage years then or just about to get there. And it was, have I let them down? But the truth is, there's no ways I could have purposely let them down. And I had to physically tell myself, this is something that nobody can actually change. It is what it is.
Yes.
And I needed to change my way, my thinking of everything around me.
Sure.
And I did. Work environment, as you know, changed completely. I slowly handed over my responsibilities. I spent more time with the kids, not because I was dreading not being able to have time with them in the future, but simply because, as you quite rightly say, priorities changed.
Sure.
My priorities, without a doubt, changed.
Yeah.
I was very much, in the first 10 years you were mentioning, very much a me person, which is the society we live in right now.
A lovely me person, though.
Thank you.
Lovely me
Thank
person.
you so much. But the me person is a person that basically everything is about them. What am I going to get back from life? Where I put in, I'd like to see what I get in return. So I've married a beautiful woman. I've got 3 kids by the time I'm 30. Okay, so where am I? What am I going to do in 10 years' time? Look back and say, well done, Anthony. And 2014, things changed, and I basically said, where are we going to be, Douglas Jones family? You know, looking back at it and saying, okay, this is where we are. Well done, guys, instead of well done, me.
That's a massive shift in thinking. That's a really massive shift in thinking. And I do remember, that happening. I do remember the subtle changes in your thought pattern and the way that you were thinking. And if we look at being diagnosed with a terminal disease, I mean, surely that must cause some level of anxiety within you. Having said that, as a male, you felt like you needed to make sure that everyone was okay all the time and having this need to provide and, make sure that everybody was taken care of. I mean, surely being then diagnosed, did that not lead to some level of anxiety of, oh my gosh, what now?
I think when I was diagnosed, I mean, that was 10 years ago, the world was actually waking up to the concerns over mental health. I know there were a lot of sportsmen that stood up and said, this is just not right. The pressures that are on us, the pressures that we put ourselves under. Then I started asking the question, I think mostly like the rest of the world, what is mental health and these disorders and these illnesses?
Yes.
And, do I have it? I actually remember asking myself, do I have a mental health problem or issue or thing that I battle with? Anxiety was definitely not one, as I said earlier. Depression, going back into my family, there were 1 or 2, possibly 3 members that battled with something called depression. That was a known fact. Depression was known, but again, it was pushed aside. You don't talk about it.
Yeah.
It's a weakness. It's a sign of weakness in your family, and your friends look at you differently. They treat you differently. So depression was there, but it was still not a major topic. Until 2014 came along, yes, I started looking at myself and saying, am I battling with anything? What can I improve for myself in order to help the family? Right. So that was the change from the me to the us. That change was very important for me. I don't think diagnosis itself ever really settled in because I believe I'm blessed that I can still be here 10 years later and have this lovely conversation with my wife of 26 years. Kids, the oldest is now 21 and the twins are 18. And as we'll discuss further on your podcasts, they've been through so much. And that probably was the turning point in my life. It wasn't 2014. It's roughly COVID 2020. Yes. That's when our life changed, not in the way that other people's did when the slowdown, the lockdowns began, the COVID injections and whatever the story was there. It actually started something in our family which changed all of us for the better.
So what was your defining moment in realizing that anxiety had very, very real consequences and was a very real thing? What do you think in your mind? Like you're talking about the kids. Was it the kids that showed you that?
Yeah, I wasn't feeling at all worried about myself or anxious about myself. I was worried about them, these young souls that were going into the world with this anxiety, which I was starting to understand. And I was seeing them being bullied, not the same way we were bullied at school, where it's one-on-one, where you see the person. It was bullied via social media, via all sorts of things. And that is where my anxiety set in as well, because I did not want them to go through this. And it broke my heart when I saw them going through this, because is it really fair for a kid of that age to go through something like this?
Yeah.
We went through it, our generation, our parents would have said, it's not anything abnormal, just suck it up and move on.
Yeah.
But it's so much easier to say that than to actually do it. So I changed that. My anxiety was for them and for their future.
Sure.
And that's where you also came in and started becoming more active as a parent as well, and actually finding out more about their struggles. And you taught me a lot, which I thank you for. Because
I think we taught each other.
Well, we taught each other, and we went through some really tough times, dark times. Kids need to talk. Adults need to talk. It doesn't matter how old you are. You need to sit up and actually explain what you've been through. And just try and get through all the misery that sits within us for our lives.
How has your parenting changed in view of the fact that all three of our kids struggle with anxiety? How has your parenting strategy changed?
Well, I would first like to say that my parenting structure or plan or the way I conduct myself in front of my kids changed dramatically since I realized that I am not the center. I am not the patriarch of the family. I'm not the one that makes decisions for their lives. And that was thanks to your help, because I think coming into the relationship, you did let me know that a family is, for us, it's 5 people. A family is 5. A family isn't 1. So then I also started to realize that how do you create a safe place for these kids to grow up, 5 of them, without leaving one behind, whether it's one of the parents or one of the kids being left behind. So 3 out of 5 succeeding in life is not what you are wanting. You're wanting 5 out of 5.
Right.
So my parenting changed, I think, probably 10 years into our relationship or into our marriage. Kids were out of diapers, nappies, and they were pretty much creating their own personalities, and they were very different.
Yeah.
All 3 kids exceptionally different.
Yes.
So that's when I realized I can't have one rule for everyone.
Sure.
And I also started changing my attitude as a husband towards you, because it wasn't a case of I'm right, you're wrong.
Sure.
Which is another thing, which is a generational thing. It comes from when we were growing up. The father generally is regarded as right, finished.
The final say.
He's got the final say. And he's the one that earns the living. He's the one that pays for everything. So give him some slack. No, I don't see it that way. I think every single person in the family has got a very important role to play. So my parenting changed then. And I think a little bit later on, as the kids got to their teenage years, and I was diagnosed in 2014 with multiple sclerosis, I think that is when I started realizing that our parenting was still very different to others.
Sure.
And you, as much as I understand that we sort of got ostracized by friends, community members, church members, whatever it might be, who basically said we were doing things incorrectly. Not according to this or not according to that, or surely that's going to create problems. Then we found ourselves in a place where we knew what the steps were going forward.
Yeah.
And for me, the most important step was actually handing over to you, who in my mind had the greatest ability to find out exactly where the issues lay, because the masking or the personalities coming out, there was actually something behind that hidden, whereas I would react. I still to this day react, and I try my best not to, but I react to whatever is being put in front of me without even stopping and thinking, whereas you were able to say, no, hold on, that little bit of rage that I see in your eyes over there, what's going on inside? That's when I started realizing, hold on, I need to let you take charge here, and I will be your support. Not because I'm weak, because that is the good thing for the family, for the five of us.
So like basically looking at each person's strength and using that to the benefit of all, basically.
Try and bring out their strength whenever you can. Yeah. And your strength was definitely an understanding of personalities, of people, of your kids, better than I.
Well, I think your strength was bringing calm to a situation that could have gone very wrong. Because, as you know, when you're going through dark times and just tumultuous and tempestuous times, sometimes the person who plays the role of mediator and being that actually just loses the plot. Hello, guilty. And I think that you and I worked well as a team where you were able to step in and go, no, actually, you need to back off right now and take a breather. So I love that you think that it's all me, but actually I think it was really a team effort. And I think if we look back objectively, I think the only reason that A, we stayed together, B, we managed to come through it, and C, our children have managed to come through it is because we worked as a team, as you say, as a family unit rather than one person leading and another person following.
Sorry, just quickly interrupt there. I remember you mentioned my dad watching me playing golf, etc.
Yes.
Golf was my passion. Golf was something I thrived in. I did well in. But there was a terminology that they used in golf which sums this relationship up. It's dovetailing.
Oh, that's good.
You cannot all be,
so good.
You cannot all be thriving or just at the top of your game
all the time.
Sure. One of you is going to be down. And I think we've dovetailed well. One picks the other one up when they're feeling down, they're feeling low, they're struggling with the dovetailing is critical. And that is what I'd say we've mastered.
Yeah.
The kids are starting to master that as well.
Yeah.
They know exactly where to step in and help each other because they're still well, they're not teenagers, but they still have...
They're young adults.
They're young adults. They still have the tendency to want the best for themselves, but
normal.
But when they are in trouble, the first person to step up will be one of their siblings.
Yeah, true story.
That is, to me, that's incredible. I think that's where we look at saying we've done something right.
Yeah, definitely, because our kids are very close and they are each other's best friends and they do want the very best for each other.
Correct. There's no
competition.
No.
Correct. And that's a wrap. Parenting has been one of the most challenging parts of my life, and having a partner who is as equally involved as you are and who supports you and steps in when needed is essential to raising mentally strong and resilient kids. The opinions and thoughts expressed in this podcast are personal and specific. While we are sure you will get a lot of valuable information from this podcast, please be advised that this is not professional medical advice unless specified otherwise. Please consult your medical professional before making any changes to your wellness regime.